Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shamoya and I am here with my first reading wrap up of the year. We read 11 books this month. I'm saying we like me. I read 11 books this month. So if you want to hear all about the books I read, stay tuned and let's dive into it. So if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my reading journal here so I can kind of tell you guys a little bit about the books that I read. Um, I will link the journal. I have a book, not a book. I have a video that I did at the start of the year where I walked through setting up my reading journal and all that. So if you're into reading journaling digitally, be sure to check that out. But I find this to be fun, relaxing, and just a nice way to document the books that I'm reading because I can have this forever. The first book I read was Somebody's Husband by Robbie Renee. I read Somebody's Wife last year, really, really good. So when I saw she was coming out with another book, um, definitely wanted to read. I think this came out the end of December, like maybe like the 28th, and I didn't get to it before the end of December, so I put it on my January's TBR. Only 313 pages. This book is in third person in case you don't like to read third person. I'm reading them. Not my favorite, but it's okay. I'm getting used to reading in third person. So this follows a grieving doctor, lost his wife 2 years prior. He's selling their home and moving back to where he grew up, where his parents still live. He has two daughters, they're twins. They're probably, I forget, they're probably like 19 years old. I don't remember how old they were. So he's still navigating like being a parent to them and losing the wife and trying to move forward type of thing. So he took on a job at a university to head a prostate cancer research. So he's a doctor. And then the female, she's a professor at that college and she's assigned to that research as the nurse. So immediately when she walks in, he literally like speechless, like took his breath, didn't know what was happening. His heart probably stopped. But it was one of those where he wasn't even thinking about like a female, thinking about any type of relationship. But the moment she walks in, something happened. So he's navigating, trying to decide if it's okay for him to move on or even explore a relationship with that female. And she's dealing with a lot as well. She has grown kids. She has a ex-husband and he got sick, so she's dealing with a lot there as well. But you kind of see how they formed a friendship, how they help each other through what each other is going through without me saying too much. There were a couple times that I got teary-eyed. I didn't full on like cried, but it got emotional a couple times where I had to take breaks. But it only took me 3 days to read this book. But yeah, my favorite thing was just the book highlighting a second chance at love after grief. And it was beautifully done. A very slow burn, like it's not packed with ton of spice and stuff like that. It was just a beautiful progression of an attraction to a friendship to a relationship, if that made sense. This was my first book and my first 5-star of the year. There was nothing I would change about this book, literally. I enjoyed everything about this book. So yeah. Number 2, I read Fate of Our Future by Briann Danae. I wish I had the published date on this, but I know it came out either that last week of December. It had to be the last week of December because I started reading this on the 4th. And while I was reading Somebody's Husband, I was hearing everybody talk about the male in this book. So I knew I had to get to this book immediately. So this was my second book. It is the third book in the Evermore series. The first two books are only like 100 and something pages, but this one went up to 224. When I say Salim, the male character in this book boyfriend, for sure. When I say I was highlighting in the prologue, because everything that came out of this man's mouth was worth highlighting. he was saying all the right things. But anyway, they were like high school, college relationships. So they're at two different colleges, so long distance relationship. And during a time where she couldn't like get a hold of him, um she was going through different emotions, and she was like, this long distance relationship, I'm trying to focus on school. Maybe he should go see what's out there and I can go see what's out there. So she calls him and she breaks up with him, and this man was like, are you sure? Tell me why he drove 4 hours to look her in the face and be like, are you sure that you're breaking up with me? Yeah, he did that. But after he asked her and made sure and looked her in the eye, he was like, okay, if this is what will make you happy, I will let you go. So now this is years later. I don't remember how many years later. She's going through a lot. She's having some like life, thinking about where she's at. Was it worth it just letting him go and doing everything that she did? But she's just going about her life. She has some things going on, and one day they just ran into each other, and he decided that, okay, I can help you with the situation that you have if you agree to marry me. So it was kind of like a marriage of convenience, but at the same time, it wasn't like a fake marriage of convenience, because to me, he just had to give her like something instead of just saying, hey, I want you back, marry me. He was like, hey, how about I'll give you this and I'll give you that, and all I need in return is for you to agree to marry me. It's like a mutual arrangement. I'll get my parents off my back and you'll get everything that you need. But even though he was saying that, in the back of his mind, he's like, I'm just trying to get my girl back. So everything that he did going forward was just like, he was going to do whatever it was to make sure he got that second chance. But this was a really, really good read. The female, she was playing a little hard to get, and that's the only reason I didn't give it like 5 star, because she was too like, to me it was like, you broke up with him and now he's pretty much, fate brought y'all back together. So it's like, why are you being hard to get? Why are you playing hard to get? Like, he's literally about to give you the world and you're like still debating if you should walk away. So that was the only thing. But again, he was everything that she needed, pretty much. So really, really good read. I gave it 4.5 stars. And that was my little orange spread on that. Really, really cute. Book number 3 was All I've Wanted, All I've Needed by A.E. Valdez. I've heard so much about this series. I think it's called the... Ooh, I forgot what this series is called. But I hear so much about like colliding with fate. And I have A Worthy Love on my bookshelf that my husband got me for Christmas. So I'm like, I need to start at the beginning and read book number 1. This did not disappoint at all. I gave it 4 stars. It was 328 pages. This one is in first person. But I wrote down in my little review that this was my first read by her. It was a beautiful friends to lovers story. When I say friends to lovers, I mean like they could be around each other. They sleep over at each other's house all the time. Didn't cross any lines. He was just there for her. Pretty much they had like a nice little friendship routine going on, where she would go by his tattoo shop. He would come by the coffee shop. He would get coffee. He would be there with her. They would be like, okay, you want to cook tonight? They just hang out. Like, they were just friends. And obviously you see them like progress through their friendship to where they started having feelings, and he's not sure if she's over her ex, and it was just stuff like that. And then he was trying to kind of back away because he's like, maybe she still want that ex, maybe she still want to be with him. And he backed away, and that caused her to be mad and just stuff like that. So you get to see them go through all the emotions, and him just being everything to her. When I say he knew what she liked. You know how sometimes you're like, you're not into certain things, but people will gift you things because it's your birthday. So they buy you all type of stuff, and then this one person just know that you actually don't care about any of that. All you would want, like, she loved sunflowers. So before her birthday, he took her to a sunflower plant. Can you tell by my sunflowers and stuff? Yeah, and that was just like, she was over the moon that he took her to. a sunflower like farm instead of buying her flashy things or whatever. So that was a true friends to lover. And I think I need to document like my favorite books from like a different trope so I can kind of, because this is definitely so far my favorite friends to lovers. Then I read Seeing Red. Seeing Red by Shon is book number 2 in the Bliss Peak series. I read just right last year. These are poly romance. So if you're not into reading that, I'm just telling you, poly romance. So this one is a MMF. So you have two males and a female. The female is a writer, like an author in the book, and she lost her sister. So she decides to go away to this cabin to focus on her writing, to get away from her family who's being a little overprotective or a little down on her, like, are you okay? Are you okay? And checking on her all the time. She just needs some space. So she goes away to her family's cabin in Bliss Peak to focus on her writing. Well, her neighbors were two best friends that live together, and they didn't have a relationship, but they worked together, lived together. And then one day she thought there was like a bat in her shower, and she just ran out of the house, ran out of the cabin to the neighbor's house, and their friendship just started there as well. Obviously, they were attracted to her immediately, but you saw how each one progressed and just how they went from just cooking for her every day, like clockwork, and hanging out. And she's trying to say, okay, maybe I should start dating. So she goes on a date with somebody else, and one of the guys show up. It was just like it was a roller coaster, but in the best way. This was my favorite like cozy read. This was the perfect like cozy read. So yeah, the male was Grayson, and Grayson was definitely my favorite. Then you had Noah. He's more of like the chill, relaxing one, and the female's name was True. She's a redhead. So, but yeah, I enjoy this a lot. I love Shon. She knows how to write a poly romance. This was 431 pages. Took me about 3 days to read this as well. Then for book number 4, what did I read? I haven't finished my journal entries, so bear with me. Next, I just read a short read. It's called Midnight by Danielle Brooks. Um, this author, I started seeing her on Threads, and I follow her on Instagram, and I saw that she had a couple books, and a lot of people were talking about Midnight because it was like a New Year's Eve novella. So a lot of people, I guess, read it those first couple days of January. So I was like, okay, I'll read it. I think it was only, I forgot how many pages it was, but it was pretty short as well. Really nice. It's one of those that you just read in between your longer reads. So nothing too crazy, but just enough, if you know what I mean. I felt like the only thing I would say about this one was because I haven't read anything else from the authors. I feel like from that author, I felt like I was getting, like I didn't know enough about the history of the town and the people in the book. So I was like, okay, maybe I will reread this after reading more of her books, if that makes sense. But it was cute. I gave it 3 stars. Just a nice little filler. Then I dived into Where We Found Our Passion by Natasha Bishop. This is book 3 in the Lost and Found series. So there's 2 other books, Where We Found Our Home, Where We Found Our Heart. Read those last year, and I heard about, and I knew I wanted to read Where We Found Our Passion, and I heard it was the spiciest. And it did not disappoint at all. So this is another second chance romance. They were together from like, they were friends to lovers, or friends to young love, if that's what you want to call it. So they were friends from like 12. They were neighbors. They hang out. Her dad was hard on her because he wanted her to be like a soccer star. So her days are spent training to be this athlete. And then he's next door. They go to the same college. I think he went there because of her. And they're together for that first year of college. Everything is all good. And cute, and then something happened that tore them apart. She breaks up with him without too much of an explanation, and he was like, what the hell? So they break up. She goes on and have a pretty successful career, and then she got hurt, and he's a physical therapist. So she ended up calling him, and he agreed to be her doctor, to take her through the rehab. So you get to deal with, or you get to see them meeting up after all these years and addressing what happened between them and navigating feelings now. One of my favorite things about this series by Natasha Bishop is the group chats, the friend group. Hilarious. Keep me smiling. And the guy in this book, his name is Kai. He was so funny. He was so funny to me. And then the female, of course, she's being like, trying not to talk about what happened, but then she had to open up anyway and tell him the whole backstory of why she broke up with him. So you get to see them dealing with that and them dealing with their feelings now and them moving forward. So really, really good read. If you haven't checked out that series, I enjoy that series. The first book in the series has a little bit of um, what do you want to call it? Suspense. But the other two books was hilarious. I was laughing the entire time. And it was spicy. It was the spiciest of the three books for sure. All right. After that, I was like, let me. This one wasn't even on my TBR, but my sister is reading this series. I got her into the series and she started reading it, and she's just full speed ahead. So I was trying to catch up to her and dive back into the Gray Huffington series, the Eisenberg series. I read Luca, I read Lyric. So Laike was the next book in the series. So I was like, okay. I need, my sister was reading it and she's like, girl, you need to catch up. You need to read it. So I end up reading it. Laike is the type of guy who not ready to settle down, so he's doing his thing. Something happened that made him go visit this girl that they've been together on and off, and he's decided that he's gonna let her be for years. Well, something happens and he shows up at her doorstep. But then he still wasn't ready to be with her. So next thing you know, she's in a new relationship and he's like, hold up, wait a minute. I know she's not engaged. I'm ready now. Now all of a sudden he's ready to be everything to her. So yeah, I did not want to like Laike, but at the same time, Laike was so funny to me. He said so many, he had some nice quotes in there, and he had the action to back up the words, in my opinion. Like, he was going to do whatever it takes to get his girl back. He was going to prove to her that he can be the man she wants him to be, and he's ready to be that man. So I couldn't be mad at him because he did everything that he said he was going to do to win her back. So it is what it is. Like, in the books, it is okay. But yeah. And then there was Liam, which was just a quick, I think it was only like 88 pages, right? Liam was like a closure to the Eisenberg series. So something happened at the end of the Laike book to kind of like a cliff. It wasn't really a cliffhanger. It kind of was, but something happened at the end of that book to kind of transition into her next series, which is the Domino Effect. So Liam was like a 88-page book to prep you. It was like a short book to kind of explain what happened and why it happened and to get you ready for the next series. Then I read Rhythms Blue, which was my physical read of the month. I got this for Christmas. My husband got this for me. It was on my wish list. This was a, what do you want to call this? It was not a, this was kind of a lip back without an unintentional lip back. So she's the girlfriend, her name is Rhythm in the book. On the back of the book it tells you she's the girlfriend of a successful rapper that was her like high school crush. So she's his girlfriend. She doesn't want to be in the spotlight. She doesn't want to be on the red carpet and stuff. But she doesn't want to be a secret either. So she's been his girlfriend for a couple years. I think it says 3 years. And then he started just moving a little different. Industry stuff where he's hanging out with this artist and they're always together and they're being all cozy. And she's like, I don't like what you're doing. Like, what you're doing is disrespectful. Like, yes, I don't want to be in front of the camera, but I don't want to be a secret either. And everybody's wondering if you guys are together. And he's just like, no, don't worry about it. We're not together. You're tripping. You're overreacting. So some things happened and she decided to move out. And shout out to her because I was like, girl, don't let this man stress you out. He was stressing her out because she's blowing up his phone and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, girl, just leave. So she did move out, got a hotel. And then once she leave, that's when he's like trying to be like, oh, you should come back. You should come back. But she decided that no, it's going to take more than that for her to come back. But eventually she's like, you know what? I don't even think I want this anymore. So she runs into this guy. They're cool. They talk. She's not expecting to see him again, but they run into each other again. She goes out to the club. They're hanging out. And she decided, you know what? It's been a couple weeks. I'm going to just have a little one night stand. And I probably won't ever see this guy again. Then the ex-boyfriend at that point, he's having like a album release or a listening party or something, and he's like, come and support me. And she's like, okay, fine, I'll come as a friend. I'm just gonna come to support you. No biggie, we're not back together, I'm just supporting. She shows up to the listening party and the ex-boyfriend introduced her to his producer. And can you guess who the producer is? Yeah, the guy she had the one night stand, which it tells you on here on the back of the book. So it's not a spoiler. But yeah, she was not expecting that. But now that she ran into him, it's like they cannot stay away from each other. And you get to see that. You get to see them dealing with their current attraction. She's dealing with moving on from the ex because he just keep popping up. Like every time he just pop up somewhere. He pops up outside of her apartment, pops up at her car. He's just popping up everywhere. But you get to see a little bit of a triangle, but not really because she never went back to him. She never went back to the ex, but she was dealing with the feelings and everything else. And yeah, this was a nice read. I think I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was an easy read too. It wasn't like any complicated words or anything. It was just a regular, easy read. And if you love a little bit of mess, you will love this book as well. Then, I think we're at the end. I read another short read because, again, whenever I finish like a full book, I like to just find something to fill the gap. So I started reading The Sweetest Revenge by Gray Huffington. She had a sale a couple weeks ago and I picked up a couple of her short reads. So I picked this one and it's book 1 in, or it's supposed to be like a prologue to another book or series that's gonna come up. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's gonna happen there, but it was on like 44 pages. But it was another revenge, just like it says, Sweetest Revenge. She's with this guy and she's like, look, I think she wanted to get married or she thought he was gonna propose or something. Something happened and she was waiting for him to be like ready to commit and he was not ready. So they break up and she runs into like an ex-boyfriend that they had just broke things off, nothing too crazy. She runs into him and he's like, okay, we should hang out later or the next day or something. And she was like, okay, cool. So she shows up at his place and she's just like, I'm just here to, let's skip all the catching up. Let's just, you know why I'm here. Like she shows up ready to go. So they do what they do and ooh, something happened. I'm not gonna spoil it. It's a short read, so I don't want, if I feel like if I tell you anything more, it's me telling you the entire book. But let's just say something happened and that ex got what he deserved. She made him literally sick when he found out that she has pretty much moved on. So, yeah. That's all I'm gonna say about that one. But it was just a short, quick read. But that made the ending of that book made me give it definitely 4.5 stars. It was that good. Um, that was pretty much it. I think. Let me make sure I touch on all the books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that was all the books. I did start my next read in January, but I'm not done because I life life caused me to not be done. But I'm currently reading Again. The title of the book is Again by J.L. Seegers because she dropped the second book called Speak, which is also a novella. So both of these books are short reads. But I was hoping to read both I was hoping to read both of them before the end of January, but between me trying to do content and all this other stuff, I did not get a chance to finish it. So I'm currently reading Again. Um I'm 60% in, and then once I get done with this, I'm going to read the book called Speak because everybody's been talking about it since last week. I think it came out like last week Wednesday. So yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. I'm trying to knock out these two short reads so I can get into my February TBR. I'm trying to think. I'm like, should I just tell you guys what? I'll tell you one or two books that I want to read this month. So for February, I did not get to read Demon's Dream in January, so that's literally at the top of my list for February. I also want to start Capone by Jacquel J. That's another long series that I'm trying to get into. Finding My Bodyguard by A. Blossom, another series that I need to read. And I want to read the last book in the J.L. Seegers New Haven series. I've read Restore Me, Revive Me, Release Me. Reclaim Me is book number 4/6 because Revive Me was split up into like three. But yeah, those are the books that are at the top of my list. I picked up a couple new books that are coming in. I have one on pre-order that comes out in February. I have a advanced copy of another book that comes out in February. So we have a little list going. And of course, who knows what else will pop up that will distract me from my actual TBR. So yeah, that's my January wrap up. For the ones that I forgot to give the star rating on, I will just put it on the screen. But overall, everything was good. Everything was good. Everything except the short book, Midnight, that I gave 3 stars. I think everything else was between 4.5, and 5 stars. I need to finish my journal entries and stuff like that. But like I said, for the more in progress report, like my favorite quotes, book reviews and stuff, be sure to follow me on my bookstagram. It's Sham Book Diaries on Instagram. Follow me on there, and TikTok, of course. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you read in January. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys in my next bookish video. So, bye, y'all.